It's gonna be good tonight.
We are recording.
Okay.
Hi, YouTube. Are you taking over for me?
Sure.
Awesome.
Okay.
All right, so we've been looking forward to this one. We've been looking forward to all of them, but
Yes.
fasting is something that I'm excited about
Yeah.
because it has changed my life, and I have evidence of that. So
Yes.
Yeah, just I do have a disclaimer at the end. I put enough.
yeah, we are not doctors.
No.
If you
Don't
have
take
health
medical advice
issues,
from
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
you need to go to a doctor that, well,
We gotta put a disclaimer in there.
you need to go to a doctor that's not, just a drug dealer.
Here, I'll read the
Amen.
one that I put at the bottom.
Okay.
I put one at the end. I am not a doctor, none of this is medical advice, and if you are at all unsure if you can or should engage in fasting from food, please consult a medical practitioner you trust.
Yes.
Alright,
There you
so
go.
there's our legal, don't sue me.
Yeah.
Statement.
But it's good to cover that.
But yeah, just as I didn't write this in here, but this is, the two of us have been doing fasting in different forms just
Right.
for physical reasons for a couple of years now, year or so. So, yeah, that's why this one's a two-pager, because I just kind of dove in, so.
Thank you.
And just recently, we read a book called God's Chosen Fast from, what was that author's name?
I don't know.
Um,
That's good.
Yeah, it was written in the 60s, but it probably, it was updated with a good forward. And then I got this little tiny book from, it's like yay big, it's about the size of this cell phone actually. If you go in Mardel's, they got the little booklets. Well, this one was about fasting, so I grabbed it. It was like a couple of bucks, and that thing has been powerful. I've been reading that for the last couple of days. I'm going to bring it in one of our follow-up classes.
Yeah.
But we're also going to talk about other forms of fasting,
Okay.
not just food.
Because
Yeah.
not everyone can do
Yeah.
the food.
It's
Yeah.
Like
other things.
diabetics and stuff.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, if you're like badly underweight already, then don't.
Don't
Yeah.
watch TV. Fast from chocolate, fast from a lot of stuff.
Yeah, anything that requires, discipline. So I'll get into this. Fast, F-A-S-T, focus, abstain, substitute, taste, experience and enjoy God's goodness. Fasting has been part of Israel's spiritual practices dating back to at least as far as Moses. However, despite many biblical references to the discipline of physical fasting, it does not seem to be mentioned very often in modern Christian circles, at least throughout my own history. Fasting is also widely practiced by other cultures and religions worldwide, but again, it seems much less common in the United States. I believe we are missing an important opportunity by neglecting this particular discipline. I do not mean to say that it is more important than any of the other disciplines we're discussing in this series, but I do think it's the most neglected in our current culture. Physical fasting, abstaining from food, has a way of sharpening our senses and heightening our awareness, and this may be part of why it's spiritually powerful. Suffering occasional pangs of hunger can also remind us how dependent we are on our provider God, and also offer us reminders to turn to Him in prayer. Fasting from food also has serious physical benefits as well, and I believe this is important when we remember that our bodies are our temples to God, 1 Corinthians 6:19. When we abstain from food for a long enough period of time, at least about 16 hours, though the effect is more pronounced in longer fasts, we can induce an effect called autophagy. Autophagy allows our bodies a degree of healing at a cellular level. We see this as evidence of God's amazing design in our creation. Given all this, it becomes more evident why gluttony is discouraged in multiple biblical references. For example, Deuteronomy 21, verses 18 through 21, Proverbs 23:21, and Matthew 11:19. Could this be one reason why our culture in the grip of small K kingdom is so insistent on pushing us to consume? Aside from food, we could also give up other things we enjoy. For those with health issues requiring regular meal times, this may be the only way to engage in fasting. While the physical benefits would not be present for a non-food fast, I think the humility gained through this type of practice still has worthwhile spiritual benefits and should be definitely considered as part of our regular spiritual discipline. Losing something we enjoy, even when we know it's temporary, can remind us what it means to humble ourselves before God and encourage us to lean on His presence and mercy, especially when engaging in a season of intense prayer. This practice can add serious spiritual dividends. Despite all the benefits fasting can bring us, there are a few cautions we should consider. Regular fasting can be very good for one's health, and I would not discourage anyone from fasting from physical benefits alone, unless, of course, there are health problems that would preclude fasting. But I think we need to approach it differently when considering a fast for spiritual reasons. We see one important warning in Isaiah 5:8-1-9, basically stating that God values our treatment of one another over any displays of our own righteousness. Likewise, in Matthew 6:17-18, Jesus himself warns that fasting for the sake of being seen fasting will carry no spiritual reward. Because of these factors, I am somewhat wary of assigning a fast for the sake of this study. On the other hand, we should always try to be obedient and disciplined even when we don't feel like it. For example, if we picked up our Bible to read when we felt motivated to, some of us would never read the Word at all. In short, I would never ask or tell anyone to fast, just as I do not want anyone else making demands of my personal spiritual walk. However, I do want us to have a good understanding of the practice, so when we feel called in the future to fast for a period of time, we will be more prepared.
So, and I don't think I ever did fully clarify what is in my head for that. So, the past few, when we talked about prayer and then we talked about Bible study, it was like, okay, we're going to talk about it for a week and then we're going to do it for a week and then come back and report. I don't think I'm comfortable saying that this time. I don't want to tell you girls, like, go fast from something and, God should be telling you when it's time to fast. I know there are denominations where it is. It's just like Wednesdays and Fridays, it's time to fast,
Well, we do in January after New Year's, we do the 21-day fast.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
So some, and I do think there's value in doing it. Like, that's what I was trying to say through here. Like, if it is just, it's a routine and it's just a discipline and it's just, you do it because it's time to do it, I think there's a huge value in that. But I don't want to be the one to tell you it's time to do it.
Right.
So
sometimes they just treat you and God, because sometimes it's kind of, when they do that corporate fast, I can't really, I have to,
Yeah, exactly. It should be between you and God. And so, and also there's the whole, like, this one we're specifically told, and I think it's probably true on all of it. It matters so much more what's in our heart than what we're doing, and we don't want to do any of it as a performance. So I think what we'll do this week, what I'm thinking, if this sounds okay to everybody, if you don't engage in any kind of fasting over the next week, that's perfectly fine. I don't want to know one way or another. But let's all at least still talk about it more next week, because there's so much here that's worth talking about.
Yes.
But instead of sharing personal stories, let's all come back next week with more information, or maybe an anecdote that you've read somewhere else, someone else's fasting story, maybe something like that, or something out of the Bible, because anything like that. Does that sound okay?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah,
I don't want to be like, no one eat chocolate for the next week.
Or somebody announced, I'm announced, I'm fasting. I'm like, that's treating you and God. You ain't doing God no favor. That's
right.
You ain't
Yeah.
healthy, God.
Like whatever you were
See, I
praying
know
for
that.
during that fast, you
Mhm.
may have just blown it by bragging about it.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
So,
I don't think you should do that.
Yeah.
Personally, my person.
yeah, but there's so much more in the Bible than what I listed here. Like, this is a very short list of verses compared to what's actually in here.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's what we can do next week instead of our usual come back and share how'd it go for you this week. Okay.
Okay, I got it.
Okay, so
I
now,
have a question.
Yes, dear.
Just like real quick this week. So it's just us, it's to us personally, because I've heard of fast and I'm not new to it. And I've heard seen all kind of ways, like a church take a certain time and all these you guys mentioned. But, we go to God, and we fast, and if I, just say I, cause I'm the one speaking. If I feel led to fast, whatever it is, or whenever it is, then, it's basically fasting whatever's hard for you to get rid of, is that where we at?
that's my understanding of it. You don't wanna, like, if you can't stand, like, asparagus, it's not gonna do any good to
Right.
Yeah.
give up asparagus for a week, like,
Okay.
it needs to be something that you're,
Giving your time
That you
towards.
give your time,
Or
like, to, like from, it could be TV, if you like chocolate or not, and sweets, stay away from sweets for a week or two.
yeah.
Anything that requires discipline, I'll give you an
Yeah.
example.
Yeah, yeah,
There's a Daniel fast too, where you can eat, but you're not eating anything fattening or anything like that. It's
Yeah.
more like a Mediterranean almost.
yeah.
Beans and lentils and,
Whereas
Yeah.
you're still
Right.
eating, but you cut back
Yeah.
anything.
it's a Daniel fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was a paragraph in here that either I have a different copy or it may have gotten missed. But I did kind of talk about, like, there's
so-
different types, even if
Yeah,
you're,
so when you was talking about the people who like is diabetic or different stuff that they have to eat,
Oh, I forgot, I didn't read it.
they can do the Daniel fast.
yeah.
Because you're not cutting away food, but it's
Yeah, so
the
they're
stuff that's
still
healthy
eating
for
at a
you.
regular basis,
Yeah.
but you're cutting away anything extravagant,
Right.
the sweets and the fats, and
Yeah.
fried food and things like that.
Yeah, here's the paragraph that I think she's talking about. When considering or called to fast, there are different types to choose from. A partial fast may cut out only certain types of food, as we see in Daniel chapter 1. During a total fast, one would give up water as well as all food for a certain period of time. Between these two extremes lies a normal quote-unquote fast in which one would give up all food but still drink water. So-
So yeah, the
So what was
Daniel
that at,
fast.
Steve?
Huh?
What was that in here?
That was in the
It's about
first
halfway
page.
through that
I
first page.
skipped over the paragraph.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm lame. So, let me give you an example, and this will be a non-food example.
Okay.
Like, I found myself, like, especially during COVID when they were rioting about the George Floyd thing, I was watching a lot of Facebook live feeds of people just tearing cities apart, and then me being a truck driver, I had to pay attention to these areas because they're, because we all remember, the Rodney King thing where that, what's his name?
Denny something?
Yeah,
Denny.
got, hit with a brick by, gang of people, because they stopped his truck or whatever. So truck drivers, we always have that. So I'm watching this and I'm sitting there on my couch, and even though everything was fine, everything was dandy, I was stressed out. My cortisol levels were up. And what happens is Little K Kingdom is influencing your world, even though your world is fine, right? So I spent a lot of time on Facebook. And so when I kind of evaluated that I was having trouble focusing and having trouble engaging and all that stuff, I got these, I got a new phone, and the new phone, I've got it set up where it gave me a report of how many hours I spent on Facebook a week.
Wow.
And I was appalled. It was like 10 hours. You know, I'm sitting there, I don't have time to do this. I don't have time to do that. Well, here's 10 hours right here.
Instagram, and then
Right.
you get caught up, and then you get angry, and
Uh-huh.
you don't need that stress.
And so
yeah.
here's where
Anyway, I tell my
there's
son to stay off.
there's a multi-level of different miracles that happen in fasting, right? So I told myself, okay, I think it might have been a Lent thing, or maybe it was just because I felt compelled to do it. I'm going to do 30 days no Facebook. I didn't remove the app from my phone, but I did gray it out. You know, there's a setting that you can do where you can set the timer to like 5 minutes and it can't open or whatever.
Wow.
And I found myself reaching for the phone every time I had that urge to get Facebook. I was like, no, I'm fasting from Facebook. And what it did is it allowed me this clarity now to sit there and go, why am I reaching for that phone? Is it because I'm bored while watching TV? Because that's usually when I do. I pick it up during commercials or whatever. Well, maybe I don't need to be watching TV shows that have 10 minutes of commercials for every 10 minutes of TV program, which a lot of shows are nowadays.
Yes.
So it allowed me some clarity and some humility, because I was like, no, I don't go on Facebook that much. Actually, you do, you know, and so it allowed, and then next thing you know, I'm reaping these benefits. You know, I'm not as anxious by not seeing all the rioting, and you know, I'm not up in everybody's business. I'm not involved in arguments, you know, because when it comes to spiritual warfare, this is one of the devil's best tools, because our flesh is a pilot light, but the devil puts the fuel on the fire to make it burst into something. You might disagree with something, like I don't do political posts at all on Facebook because I don't care what side of the fence you are, right? But it allowed me to evaluate why I was picking up Facebook and how much better I felt for not picking up Facebook, and it helped me spiritually eventually, you know. When it comes to food, I had to do the same thing. I had to eliminate whole food groups, and I went down the rabbit holes of all these different health videos that are you know, that are buried because they actually help people instead of making people dependent on pharmaceuticals and processed food, which, you know, and so I found the motivation. And God put some words in my head that, you know, about cancer and sugar, that was my fuel. And so by abstaining from sugar, I discovered I was a sugar addict. I did have problems in that area. But then by abstaining from that, I started feeling the benefits, and my body started to heal myself, and I lost 100 pounds. And I've shown you the pictures.
I remember when you first started when you guys first started coming, yeah, you were really heavy. You was heavy, style heavy.
Yeah, and so.
But I don't know how, it's been a while, so I can't remember, but yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So that, you know, and so for me, when you become a Christ follower, you have to destroy the old you. You have to get rid of the old you. You abstain from alcohol.
Yeah.
So what happened? Your
Your
life changed, right?
Yes, I just
See,
love it.
that's a form of fasting.
Mm.
You know, and so once you reap the rewards in your body, you know, and that's the miracle that God has given us, is that our bodies have the ability to heal ourselves, and that's the design, that's the creation, and it really kind of made me realize of all the chemicals they put in food to make it addictive, all the, you know, how they encourage gluttony. You need to eat 6 times a day to keep your metabolism up, you know, and you know, little things like that. That's the little K kingdom destroying our temples one cell at a time. And so, and this is gonna sound weird to you guys, okay? And she's heard me say this. The boxes of donuts that sit at the table as everybody comes to church. Think about what is the first temptation that humanity ever encountered. It was with food, right? Hey, eat this piece of fruit. You know,
Yes,
You
you're
want the
right.
one piece of fruit that you were told not to have.
right?
Yeah. Like today I got the food from the other place, and why they send all this pastries that I'm trying to stay away from.
Well, I mean,
He told Matt was offering his donuts to take home to the kid that were left over, and he told him, he's like, that's a spiritual attack. You preach it, yeah.
'cause,
That is
well, and look, I'm a victim. Like one time we went home with some donuts, and I actually ate a couple. And I said, "What am I doing? I'm throwing them away." That was within the last month, and then. But you know, going back to the general, because I don't want to this isn't a health video or whatever.
The spiritual health.
It's a spiritual health video, yes.
Yeah.
But see, my mind had to go there because because think about it, you can be the best Christ follower, you could be the most dedicated person in this church, you could be the most giving person in the church, right? But how does the devil get you? If he can't get you mentally, he's going to get you physically. He's poisoning the well. I mean, when you look at warfare, like on a humanity level, one of the things they do is they destroy morale. They destroy the water, they destroy the supplies, and they poison the well. That is
Salt the earth.
salt the earth. And that's the strategy. You know, there's, you know, think of, you know, I know plenty of examples, but, you know, there are families out there that, you know, they got their 65-inch TV, like, you know, 3 feet away, and they got their Mountain Dew, and they got all the gluttonous, you know, they got the pizzas and everything, you know, everything's at the ready, and you know, and it's a proven fact that sugar can fog your mind, you know, and it can cloud your judgment, and so it's almost like dulling the senses, and I'm going to tell you that the beginning of my real spiritual growth happened when I eliminated those foods and I started to do intermittent fasting. Because I had this clarity that the only other time I experienced that kind of clarity was when the doctor put me on Wellbutrin because I was in a depressed state after my dad passed away. And for 2 weeks it was great. It was great. And then after 2 weeks the voice started going, "Hey man, here's some clarity. You're worthless because you allowed all these things to happen. This is why you're depressed, because you're worth nothing." And I became almost suicidal. So I immediately stopped the medication. And then, you know, had I known then what I know now, I could have done it dietarily and found clarity earlier in my life. You know, and every now and then the devil's like, "Hey, yeah, it's too late to start now. It's too, you know, you might as well just eat the donuts and pizza because, you know, it's okay." Right? And so, why is it that my spiritual strength started to get better when I started eliminating things that caused me to be gluttonous? And that's the purpose of fasting. One of the purposes of fasting is it shows discipline. So, just recently, a couple of weeks ago, so I think the longest fast I've ever done was 46 hours. And there were times when, and I was doing 24 like every week, like on Thursday to Friday. I'd eat a heavy lunch on Thursday or a heavy dinner on Thursday and then wouldn't eat again until Friday. And I started, okay, so I was sitting in my semi-truck. I'm like, "Oh, I'm fasting today, man, what?" And I was sitting at a dock getting loaded, and I figured out that I'm a boredom eater. I'm a stress eater. You know, if I'm stressed out, you know, I'm not sitting here like, you know, I'm just like, I think I'm going to get up and get something out of my cabinet in the truck, right?
Yeah.
And by abstaining from this, I was able to see that clarity and realize how much of it was habit, how much was the little K kingdom programming me to consume, right? But recently, so over the last year, I have gone away from my discipline of fasting. Because usually I was doing 16 to 18 hour fasts from food, and what I found was it started to go from 18 to 17 to 16 to 15 to 14. Next thing you know, I gained another 30, 40 pounds. So in July of this year, I said, we're going back, right? But just recently, it wasn't a month ago that I said, I'm gonna start doing 24-hour fasting again. And I remember I need discipline, because now I have, before the motivation was weight loss, and the benefit was the spiritual growth. This time, it's the spiritual is the intention, it's the motivator. And I desire discipline. I don't want to balloon my way back up. I don't want to be distracted with my cell phone. I want to be able to read the Bible and read my books instead of watching, Netflix.
Yeah.
So I got rid of Netflix and I started fasting again. And I remember there was one day I was really struggling with my first 24-hour fast, and I heard the word discipline just, pounded into my head. Like it wasn't me, it was discipline. And then I would pray, and then, it causes you to have this humility, right? Just like what she said in the sheet, it's like, dear God, I'm at my weakest, give me the strength, and then, and I got through it, and it happened to be before I was praying on something with my son, and it was when we were struggling with the car shopping, and I did a 24-hour fast right before that, Saturday. Everything, we found a good car, and it was like prayers were answered. But our intention of fasting is not to manipulate God, but to be able to hear God. It's kind of like quieting all the noise. If I say I'm not going to do Facebook for 30 days, that's a lot of noise that just left my life. Same thing with any social media, because social media is where the devil goes, hey, I'm going to fan these fires of fleshly desires, Because if I'm watching too much internet, I tend to buy more things. I tend to buy the things that I'm interested in, things that I didn't need. But you're, oh man, I didn't know that existed, but I need 2 of them right now. So fasting can be like, I got rid of Netflix. That was a form of fasting. I didn't get rid of Facebook, but I definitely, I think recently I've done the 15-minute timer. That's enough to check my notifications and check my friends for their events or any deaths that might be in my little circle. And when I feel myself slipping, add 10 minutes. I'm like, nope, go back to 20, go back to 10, go back to 5, And so, and that's not even, when it comes to the food, we are our temples. We are the temples, And so, going back to my donut thing, you could be the best Christian, you could be the best Christ follower, you could be the most loyal church-going member that you might even give $100 to donations a week that you show up, and the devil still gets you because you're eating something that is not good for you, that can destroy your health. It causes, it's been known. Disclaimer, it's been known. Studies have shown that it can cause, it can feed cancer. It feeds inflation, or inflammation. Well, it does feed inflation, but
spending all your money on junk food and
inflammation, and and it's a short term. I feel good, like alcohol, like drugs, right?
Yes.
And and there's evidence that the cigarette companies bought into the food companies And I've been doing, like, on my other YouTube channel, I've been doing these reports during one of my fasts of how the ingredients, they'll even put ingredients in dog food and cat food to make them taste better so that the animals will actually eat it. And so 50% of animals, what are they? They're overweight, they got diabetes,
Yeah.
right?
Cancer, everything.
Now, when you go out and look at the wild, the lions, the tigers, any animal that doesn't have any human influence on feeding it, they regulate themselves. So on that note, what do animals do when they don't feel good?
Eat grass.
They don't know. Well, yeah, but they don't eat at all.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and so animals naturally fast when they're not feeling good. Think about if you have the flu, are you going out and eating dinner?
No.
Because your body's telling you to fast. That is God's design. That is God's design. You need healing. So guess what? We're going to take your appetite away and we're going to help you feel better. It's all part of God's design. And so yeah, we jokingly said, and Matt knew I was, well, he knew I wasn't kidding, but he knew I wasn't as authoritative about it as I sounded, because I come off that way sometimes. But that's what I had to put in my head, because that's what I saw it as, so I wouldn't, and I still gave in to temptation at times. I've still ate a couple of donuts. Last week we took home a bunch of donuts too. And I put them on the table, and my son, who's, wanting to change some of his diet ways, and I've lectured him about eating sugar. I'm sitting there like, how hypocritical am I to have this box on the table, right? So I was in the bedroom getting, changing clothes, and I overheard my wife and my son talking, and he goes, because we brought home spaghetti too, and he goes, I don't want the donuts, and I don't want the spaghetti. And I'm sitting there like, you know what? Let's do this before he changes his mind. So he goes back to his bedroom. I picked up the donuts, threw them in the trash.
Yeah.
And some of you might go, well, you could have given that to a homeless person. No, because
It would make them sick.
it would make them sick too, and then be a burden,
Yeah.
and then make them suffer. So that's destroying the temple, whether they're homeless or super rich. Food always gets in the system. You can have the most elegant, decadent food come into any system, and it's bad. So, and that's the point of the story in Daniel, right?
Oh.
Like he didn't want that decadence because he knew it'd be unhealthy. For
Well,
him.
and plus I don't know if it's spelled out in Daniel, but from what I've read, that was probably food that had been offered to the idols in
Oh,
the
yeah, I
temple
remember
there in
learning that.
was Nebuchadnezzar first?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And so, yeah.
yeah.
I remember that Melody taught on that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it was like not food for them for a couple of reasons, so,
Right.
Yeah.
yeah.
So is there a fast called Daniel fast?
Yes.
Yeah, it's called Daniel
I
Fast,
thought
you
I
can
heard
look it
someone
up,
say
yeah.
that.
There's a book about it, but you can find all kinds of stuff online too. It just cuts out. I've never done it, but I think it cuts it back to basically just
Basic, like beans and.
beans and fruit and vegetables
Yeah,
and
not
water
even
to
meat.
drink. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Now
No Yeah.
a meatless fast is kind of hard because that protein helps
That protein
satiate
to
you
fill
and all
you.
that.
Yeah.
So it's a real disciplined
Yeah.
fast.
But I think that's where the beans come in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Protein, yeah.
Protein beans.
The
Not with no meat in it.
Uh-huh.
I think some people like to eat those lentils.
Yeah, some
Uh-huh,
beans
yeah.
are good, just like beans soup.
Mhm.
I know, I think Pastor Melanie makes something when she on with the ass with beans or something. It seems like, I can't remember what she did.
What's really interesting is I watched an interview with Jonathan
Oh, Rumi?
Rumi, who plays Jesus in The Chosen, that show The Chosen.
Yes.
And you learn that he's very orthodox, and he fasts on Wednesdays and Fridays. And he didn't say this as a bragging way.
Right.
This is
Yeah.
just what I do.
Yeah.
it's true.
And And so reading this book, this little tiny book that I got at Mardel's for $3, they talked about that it was written in 2006, and they talked about Wednesdays and Fridays on the church that he was growing up at. So I mean, so the Wednesday and Friday thing seems to be a common thing, right? And he said there's two kinds of fasting: corporate fasting, which you
Right.
mentioned earlier, and then
Right.
individual fasting. And corporate fasting was more or less used for, you know, praying for the church. You know, like if we want this church to build, or if we're struggling, or if we're getting ready to lose the building, you know, that kind of thing. Or if like maybe one of the congregants is sick, and everybody does some kind of fast, you know, for so many days, you know, that, so corporate fasting can be very powerful, but then you know, like what you're talking about, then you're trying to, you know, dictate how people fast, and that could lose its power. But,
Yes, I think so. 'Cause
Well, I don't think there's anything wrong in asking for it, like
Right.
if, like pastor says, like, hey, here's this issue, can we all come together and fast and pray over this? And you're never gonna know who is and who isn't really,
Right,
you know?
yeah, it's not like you have report cards on the wall.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, you get a star because you fasted, but you didn't, so.
And going back to God's design, I watched a video of a guy that fasted for 40 days and was able to remove cancerous tumors from his body naturally without operation. There was another story that was in that little Mardel book that this woman's daughter, she was an adult, but she signed a record deal with this record label in New York City to do gospel records. And come to find out, she found out that they do witchcraft to help the record sales. So she left the record label and they tried to sue her. And they said, we're going to sue you. And they must have hexed her or something because she became really sick to the point that she was having seizures. But during these seizures, she was mentioning things about her mom's past that her mom has never told her. Something supernatural was going on. So when they brought her to the doctor said there's 5 spots, dark spots on the brain that's causing this. And so he introduced the idea of fasting because he was a Christian-based doctor. And she got the community rallied up, and I'm paraphrasing here, but they fasted for so many days, and next thing you know, she snapped out of it, and they did a new CAT scan, and the 5 spots were gone. And someone, I think, one of the priests that came by that prayed over her said that they saw like 5 demons that were, you know, and so there's story after story of people curing their cancer, curing their seizures, curing their inflammation, being able to go from, you know, bedridden to walking, you know, by fasting. And so take anything in your life, like alcohol used to be destructive for you, you fasted from it, boom, you got a new life. It's with anything. It could be social media, it could be Netflix, it could be Amazon shopping. Amazon can be addictive. You know, that thrill of someone showing up at your door with something cool and shipping's free, you're good to go. You know, next thing you know, you got a maxed out credit card and an angry spouse, you know, so fasting, so what would you do? Like at one time we had credit card problems, it was mainly me. And so this is before everything was online, so we actually followed some advice and we put them in a thing of water and we threw it in the freezer. It was there if we needed it for an emergency, but it was a huge effort if we wanted to use it for frivolous things. And it worked.
And we did have to thaw it out once.
Yeah.
Something came up. And
Yeah. And so that took discipline. But sometimes you gotta force the discipline. Like, you know, throwing the donuts away, you know? Because part of me was like, well, I shouldn't have even brought it home. And then so what it did, it made me evaluate, well, one of my problems is I hate wasting food. So when you go to a restaurant, you know, and you only eat 3 nibbles, you know, you don't throw the plate away. What do? You take it home because you want to waste it. Then it sits in your fridge for 3 days, and then you throw it away.
Yeah.
You know, because mold hit it, and you're like, well, now I can't have it. So now you feel justified. But anything that you feel you're in excess of, it doesn't have to be food. It could be anything in your life. You fast from it, and God's design says this is how you cleanse yourself.
And see, you know, I was just thinking when you were saying that, it's like with me, I would have to discipline myself in a fast, whatever it may be that I'm fasting from, because like you all were saying, you know, the little K kingdom, you know, it's gonna rise, you know, this little, and I need to use the big K kingdom that we talked about, but say I was fasting, and say somebody comes up and give me a soda. I don't, you know, it's like, I don't wanna let them know, so what do I do? It's like I just drink the soda. So I just, you know, I just say what I'm gonna do. I say how why? It's like, I know I'm supposed to be doing this, which I never done it. I never done a fast. So that's why I really need to pay attention. But that's just how easy I manipulate sometimes I
You
get.
tell them, no, thank you, I don't want soda right now.
Yeah, you
You have to
know.
explain it.
Yeah,
You
because
can
it's
create
like I
boundaries,
used to take it.
but there's a trick to that, because I deal with that all the time. A lot of times I'm gonna fast for the next 2 days.
Yeah.
And then one of the drivers will go, hey, I'm going through Springfield. I'm like, because, you know, I always tell the drivers I'll buy them dinner, you know, going somewhere, right? So in your situation, so basically what happens is like when you finally decide you're gonna fast for something, like, oh, there's a couple of shows coming up that I can't miss, so I can't eliminate my Facebook completely. Or, you know, the little K kingdom is gonna throw snacks in that, because that's what it does. And so like in your situation in soda, you can say, I can't have that right now.
Okay.
And if they press on it, because you can,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, no.
You know, they don't need to know why, they're just like, I can't. Or you just, you know, if they've given it to you and they don't expect you to open it right there, it's like, okay, thank you. And then, you know, when they're not looking, you throw it away, or you
Give it to some,
Or-
no, just throw it away.
just throw it away. Or, you know, like when they're not looking, just dump it out, you know?
My grandma used to say,
Or go to the
you know, if
bathroom.
something, if you don't want it, you give it to somebody or throw it away. Just a thank so, be appreciative.
Yeah.
I don't have to keep it.
Yeah, if you do like me and go, that's a spiritual attack. See, it's a spiritual attack. You know, people are gonna look at you weird, but they may not offer you anything ever again, or they're gonna go, look at me, I've got a soda.
Yeah.
Like I was at a truck show one time and everybody ordered pizza and I'm just sitting there not eating. They're like, how are you doing this? I'm like, I don't know, you know, just I'm enjoying the fact that I can stand on my feet and all you guys are complaining how much you're served. But a lot of them will like, oh, look what I'm eating, ooh, pizza.
Oh, yeah, you know.
You're just like,
Uh-huh.
okay, I see a spiritual attack, I see disease, I see pain,
Yes.
you know, so it's not a temptation. And
Right.
so,
See,
see, it's perception. And that's one of the things about fasting is it changes your perception. It allows you to listen to God's word.
Well, in perception, oh man, I wish I could remember which book it's in, but Paul writes in one of his letters how we're supposed to change our perception. Focus on what is good and what is beautiful and what is honorable. And so in a case like this, it's hard sometimes to focus on when you're like physically in hunger or when you're having a bad craving and someone offers you the very thing you want the most.
Last week I did, because I didn't have no sweets in the house. And then, so they knew my cholesterol level was out, I was medicine. Which means I'm not giving you no cupcakes. And he said, Daddy said he wasn't gonna give me cupcakes either, but he broke in and brought some Yeah, and then today, you know, with the stuff, because I know I need to leave them sweets alone.
Yeah.
And so I really need to fast for that. I said, okay, I'm gonna keep these cookies up in the house, but I'm gonna get rid of it because there's some turnovers I got in the garage. You know, but I know that's something I need to
Yeah,
lay off on. So that's what I need to work on.
yeah, so putting that advice to that situation,
Yes, Lord,
instead of focusing on like how much you want it or how much you wish you could have it, how unfair it is that you can't have it.
I said, because I might overeat, because I don't have it, so then I eat the stuff I don't want, because they ain't fixing the craving.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's that too, but
Yeah.
if you can shift your perspective to focus
Yeah.
on the benefits you're getting.
Yes.
You know, like,
Yeah.
oh, but it'll
Oh,
feel so good the next time I go to the doctor and my cholesterol is lower.
Oh, my blood sugars are lower.
Yeah, or like, well, this hurts now, but it'll feel good later because of
focus on
X, Y,
God.
Z.
Yeah, because I know I can, you know, focus on, you know, God, because I had days where I went to this house, just be quiet, and then get to that, come over to the house, and, why you got the TV on, everything quiet? I said, sometimes I need that quiet time. I don't need the noise all the time.
I think one of the things that helps me with my perspective is righteous anger.
Yeah.
Righteous anger?
Yep.
No, what's that? I
So-
know what righteous is for us.
Yeah.
Righteous anger, because you have these
Jesus.
pharmaceutical companies trying to play God.
Mm-hmm.
You have these food companies that are trying to play God.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it that an all-natural piece of meat steak is more expensive than, you know, a bag of chips?
Mm-hmm.
You know, because the bag of chips was not meant for our consumption.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that was not what God intended. You want to eat potatoes, eat potatoes. You want to eat,
Stuff on the land.
right, yeah. And so the righteous anger comes in, like, these people are trying to actively kill me. They're trying to make me sick. They're trying to make money off of me. They're
Yeah,
trying to
they're
treat me.
profiting off of
They're
all the
enslaving
damage they're
us.
doing.
It's enslavement because you're at the mercy of the pharmaceutical companies. You're at the mercy of your health insurance. You're at the mercy of
Processed food places.
processed food places.
Because
You're at
they
the
put all
mercy.
that chemical to make you addicted.
Yes.
Yeah, and if you got a limited income, well, they can keep you sick by making the you know, the junk food.
Cheap.
Like
Cheaper
it,
than
you guys have seen the people in the big carts at Walmart, you know, that can barely walk,
Uh-huh.
and they're 400 pounds, and they've got
Sodas
sodas and cupcakes and everything else.
Chips.
And I think that there's a politician, and we won't mention names, but there was a politician that said, we want to make it to where food stamps can't buy that stuff. And people have lost their minds because they're, you telling someone that they can't have sugar is the same as telling someone they can't have cigarettes. They get almost like violent about it.
Yeah.
And so there's a righteous anger about me that says this is their way of destroying the temple of God
Right.
by destroying our bodies. And so that's what motivates me to not eat the donuts. That's what motivates me
Yeah.
to stay, you know, that's what helps my discipline.
Yeah. And then
Is that clarity?
you know, I wanted discipline. I'd like to get more better because I still want to enjoy life.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, how am I going to travel around like this? You know. Yeah. So.
Well, I mean, you know, favorite saying of cigarette smokers, well, you know, I'm gonna die sometime.
Yeah.
I've watched a man literally die of lung cancer, and that is not, you don't just like, okay, I'm done, and you go to sleep. No, it's a
brutal.
violent, brutal, horrible death that's full of
It takes
pain.
a long time too. It's not quick and
And
easy at all.
my father, when he was on his deathbed, said, Stephen, I never thought that it would be this bad, because he was one of the people that used to say that. And so when people do that, oh, look what I'm eating, this is so delicious, don't you wish you had it? I'm like,
You know, I can get over it.
no. And when I see people I love eating these kind of things, it's like I'm watching somebody smoke,
Right.
or watching the alcoholic go back to alcohol. You know, it has that's the righteous anger I have, and I live with that every day.
I think I used to say when I was working in Cox, drinking coffee and Coca-Cola, I said, I love Coca-Cola, but Coca-Cola don't love me because it's starting to bother me, so it's